And we're back with Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 1, The Broken Circle. Now I've got myself a script here, so let's get to this. Star Trek Season 2 steps out of the gates, playing up favorite characters and the original foe in a clash with Klingons, in the hopes of avoiding another Klingon war. Yeah, the premise of the episode is, let's undermine the mining syndicate's plan to use a Starfleet vessel to get the war going again, so money can once again come flowing through the Kojitar system, which provides an enormous amount of dilithium and is always in demand. Just not in as high a demand as in wartime. And so Spock hijacks the Enterprise with the crew's and the chief lead inspector's permission as well.
We can spend a lot of time talking about this, or we can go.
Which leads me straight to my first standout scenes, which is the introduction of Pelia. We get tons of information about her within just the first few minutes of her appearance, thanks to Uhura's good ear and Pelia's tendency to ramble with purpose. Not only do we find out her species, Lanthanite, but by the end of the episode, Spock confirms all the little hints about her, and we learn her people are here, like right now, possibly. Okay, fictionally, but just in case, hi Lanthanites, I hope you're enjoying the show. And along the lines of major introduction of a new species, a new character, we also get a bit of the past as she reveals Amanda Grayson, Spock's mother, was who Pelia came out to first. So I have a feeling there will be more Amanda appearances later on in the season. I wouldn't mind. I enjoy the actress. So with the assistance of Pelia, Spock's headed out to foil a plan, and it involves this barely space-worthy Crossfield class ship, or at least most of it was a Crossfield. It was sort of haphazardly put together, it looks like. But as Spock is trying to time the firing of a couple of photon torpedoes, M'Benga and Nurse Chapel are stuck on said ship, and M'Benga's got what I can only assume is adrenaline plus, and it gives us a terrific train of battle fight scenes with M'Benga seriously saving the day. But I have to say, I would not want to go and meet Nurse Chapel in a dark alley. That girl can throw down, and that's why M'Benga and Chapel tearing through Klingons is my second choice for standout scene. Oh, and their escape plan, that was brilliant. And so the story overall was familiar and filled with friendly faces, and yet new ones as characters join us as well. But getting Spock in the big chair was really what this episode was all about. And as exciting as that moment was, it turned heart-wrenching as we watch him struggle with the demands of command in a rather dire circumstance. And so Spock commanding under duress, making the tough decisions, and coping with the outcome is my top standout scenes pick. Which I know is a lot of scenes, really, but it was an insane run that really gave us some in-depth insight into what it was like for him. Once the Klingon battlecruiser came into view, that changed the game, and revealing themselves was really the only course of action Spock had. At least if he wanted to avoid a war. But thanks to La'an and M'Benga, Spock did have the information necessary to logic his way through an explanation as to what was really going on. And we watch him work through the war in his mind between the logic and the emotions as he tries to decide how to act best and when. It's really rare that we see Spock display emotions openly, but seeing him lean over Chapel crying is definitely a side of him we have not seen. And hearing him as he tries to define his feelings to M'Benga is utterly relatable, really. Now, if you've made it this far, give this review a like and subscribe so you'll have quick access to each review as they come out. Then, if you're so inclined, check out my spacey gear. It's quirky, it's silly, and comes with a promo code for a 15% off discount. Okay, that's enough of that. Back to it. When it comes to the honorable mentions for this episode, there were honestly so many great character moments, I just had to include as many as possible. And for the first one on the list, it's going to be M'Benga's experiences through the war. While Enterprise missed the war, we find out that not all personnel aboard did. And Chapel and M'Benga are among the two who were involved in the Klingon War previously. And while we're learning about this, we learn about the magic serum that seems to be like an adrenaline rush on adrenaline. And then some more interesting things happen. And that's why they got that fighting scene as a standout scene earlier. And while we learn about this, we learn that that magic serum is something M'Benga carries with him all the time. And we also find out that he's had to use it before. Now, Spock has had a rough time this episode, and going into more detail about how his experiences last season with the Gorn have caused him to lose those barriers to emotions Vulcans worked their whole lives to shore up, has not only made his emotional control difficult, but creates doubt as to how he can command, and the introduction of music in Spock's life, again thanks to M'Benga, was a nice little bit of fan service respectfully and tastefully inserted. Now, if Ensign Uhura had walked in and started singing, that would have been just a little over the top, in my opinion. And now my favorite honorable mention here, I suppose it could also be considered fan service, but honestly, it was just fun, and that was drinking blood wine with Klingons in both its forms. It was nice to see La'an's quest had come to a conclusion, but really watching her drink Kardach under the table had elements of Indiana Jones and Marion, and I loved it. Mostly because there was no doubt she would win. I mean, really? And of course, Spock sharing a barrel of blood wine with the Klingon captain was also great, though I do think I got a bigger kick out of him with his hangover the next morning, also known as his punishment. Now, one more honorable mention does go here, and it's going to the graphics. I do this a lot, I know. However, seeing Starbase 1 and the camera view as the shuttles are flying around it, not to mention the views of the planet and the battle cruiser, the Enterprise itself, really everything was so fantastically done as usual. And I think at this point, the graphics of Star Trek are pretty much their own character. It just wouldn't be the same without them now. Of course, while Pike appeared in the episode briefly, he was just fighting for Una, and in search of a mysterious her, he gives Spock the opportunity to be in command by leaving. April shows up in the episode as well. He's basically there to let Spock off the hook for stealing the Enterprise, and then he also is part of the reason we now know that there is another war possibly coming, and it's not with the Klingons. It is, of course, because this is Strange New Worlds, with the species that Strange New Worlds is now famous for revealing and hating and fearing, and that's going to be the Gorn. Which means it does look like Strange New Worlds could be going into a story arc for the season, but I really don't think that's going to take away from the episodic joy we get from these mini adventures that happen each week. So I really doubt that this little story arc is going to interfere with those particular storylines, and we do know some interesting ones are coming. Now, when it comes to my overall review of the episode, I was really looking forward to this one being big and just overwhelming. It really wasn't. It wasn't a bad episode, don't get me wrong. It's totally worth watching. There are a lot of moments on it that otherwise we would totally miss, and backstory. For instance, why does Spock play music? However, I wouldn't even put this episode in my top 5 picks, and there's only 11 episodes to choose from. It just didn't have me on the edge of my seat, which quite frankly I'd been kind of used to being on with Picard. Not a fair comparison, however, there it is. But it was most definitely worth the watch as we explored characters' pasts and got ourselves a bored Lanthanite. And also, don't forget the blood wine. So I'm not worried about this season. With the hints we've been given as to what to expect, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what happens next, and hopefully soon we'll have the whole crew back together with some minor adjustments. Will Chapel get the fellowship? Will Pike find the her to help Una? Will crewmen learn to stay out of Uhura's station? And let's not forget the will they won't they of Chapel and Spock. But I'm afraid we'll have to wait till next Thursday to get any more information. Until then, if you'd like to get more information about what our stars have been up to, or would like to check up on other Star Trek reviews, check out some of these videos here, and I'll see you there.